And a lot of focus at the moment is on AI, and that's just another step in the evolution of technology for humans and mankind over centuries and millennium. There'll be another form coming probably in 10 years. AI is where we are at the moment, and I think part of the challenge for not just for technology companies, but for smart cities and a whole lot of industries, keeping an open mind and being ready to adapt to those as they come along.
Yeah, and it's a really good point you make, Fanny, about technology being the application of knowledge. And I think that comes back to that point about it enabling us to do things faster than we could if we were doing it as human beings with our own brain. So it's providing us with that extra brain power, if you like. But then there's still the interpretation of that knowledge and how we apply it, which is so important to make sure that we're using it for good, not evil.
Welcome to the Smart Cities Council podcast. Smart Cities Council is an international organization aiming to create a safer, more beautiful, enabled, and resilient future for everyone, with more than 400,000 members and collaborators across the globe. Today, I welcome Mark Griffiths and Samantha Taylor from Neuweb to the podcast. May I ask you to introduce yourself and your connection to the Smart Cities Council? Mark, let's start with you.
Thank you, Fanny. Yeah, I'm Mark Griffiths. I'm Commercial Manager and Director of Neuweb. We're an AI video analytics company using AI to make cities safer and more efficient.
Thanks, Fanny. And I'm Samantha, or Sam, and I'm General Manager of AI Transformation at Neuweb. And like Mark, my role is focused on how we can use CCTV and AI to make cities safer, more efficient, and more enjoyable for everyone.
Oh, we will get back to the CCTV and the safer aspect, but first, I would love to understand what you mean by the term smart city.
To me, Fanny, a smart city is one that uses data and technology to improve safety, mobility, and the overall quality of life. That's now progressed into using AI to improve those aspects. So that's what smart cities mean to me at the moment.
Yeah, and for me, it's a human-centred city where information flows to help residents and visitors and people who work in a city to get where they need to get to. So whether that be transport, to visit friends, to get to work, to get to events, restaurants, and finding those destinations like restaurants and accommodation, and then also doing that safe as well. So it's an enjoyable place to be. Overall, I think a smart city needs to feel safe, clean, and enjoyable. And from a Neuweb perspective, it's based on that human-centred design. It's also data-informed decisions, environmental consciousness, integrated transport infrastructure, which is my background, which we'll get to later, social inclusion and co-design, and, of course, good governance. So I guess it's a lot of those things together, but making sure they're integrated.
Both of you mentioned data. And in my experience, data is not necessarily enough to have informed decisions, because we can just say that here are a bunch of numbers, let's do better decisions. So how can we make better decisions while using data? Is there a transformation, a translation from data to better decisions? How are you using data in your work?
Yes, really good point there, Fanny. I think everyone has lots of data, and part of the issue more broadly is how to actually combine all that data into insights that people can actually take actions from. And from our perspective, the approach is we create dashboards that convert all that data into graphical and tabular insights and can feed into, there's quite a few data platforms that can visualize that data. So we're very much around working with the end customer to tailor the data to what they actually want and categorize the data, combine it and visualize it as well as we can using other dashboard platforms, etc. So that's our approach at the moment.
And from my perspective, Fanny, I 100% agree that data can be misused, right? And there's been the old saying, statistics damn lies and statistics, which is another word for saying data, lies and data. And it really is about the insight. So that's where the human part comes into it, because you've got the engineering or the data science perspective, software development, but is that actually collecting the right information? Is that data right? What's the range? What's the error margin and things like that? So it's really about understanding it from a human perspective. Does it make sense, the data, as well as just collecting it? But then when we're trying to get those insights, again, to always be checking it from a human perspective. Does it make sense? And if it doesn't, what are the number of reasons why it doesn't? So it's not just about, if it doesn't make sense, then rejecting it, but it's really about going into a deep critical thinking mode to understand from a lot of different perspectives why that data might make sense. So while there's a lot of hype around AI, it's using the AI and machine learning and the data with the human and your own human intelligence to really be able to bring those two together. And that's not just one view, but multiple views. And I'm sure we'll get to talk about that a bit more later.
I would like to go back to a very basic question, because that's also a very interesting element of what you are talking about, and the backbone, basically, what you're talking about. I would love to know what you mean by technology. And I'm asking this because technology can have a variety of understanding and also a variety of use cases. So for me, for example, technology is applied knowledge. That means a very broad understanding of what could mean technology. In some cases, people are meaning by technology the digital technology, the data usage, the AI, the machine learning, the whatever digital technology you can think of. So I'm curious how you understand and talk about technology.
I think for me, Fanny, technology is anything at all that could assist a human in making a decision or undertaking an action. I know these days we think about computers, but it could also be as simple as a match is a piece of technology. It's something that a human cannot naturally do or needs some assistance with. So I think there's a very broad conversation topic there about technology has been with us for many years. It's just in a different form these days. And a lot of focus at the moment is on AI, and that's just another step in the evolution of technology for humans and mankind over centuries and millennium. There'll be another form coming probably in 10 years. AI is where we are at the moment. And I think part of the challenge for not just for technology companies, but for smart cities and a whole lot of industries, keeping an open mind and being ready to adapt to those as they come along. Samantha?
Yeah, and it's a really good point you make, Fanny, about technology being the application of knowledge. And I think that comes back to that point about it enabling us to do things faster than we could if we were doing it as human beings with our own brain. So it's providing us with that extra brain power, if you like. But then there's still the interpretation of that knowledge and how we apply it, which is so important to make sure that we're using it for good, not evil. So that's something that's very close to our heart, as well as that ethical use of AI, ethical use of technology. It really enables us to focus on things that we enjoy doing and be more creative. If we think back to some of the things that used to take a long time. When I went to university, I had to photocopy a whole lot of books. And that took forever. And that took hours of time of just this completely mundane work. Whereas now I can use ChatGPT to summarize a book. This is chalk and cheese. This is moving something that might take weeks to minutes or seconds. So it's really I totally agree that applying that knowledge is really important.
I love that both of you brought in the necessity for technology to enable humans to do something better, decision making, mundane tasks, whatever, because that means that technology is not for technology's sake, which is, in my personal opinion, is very important. not to lose that side that we use technology. It's not for the sake of technology. Now, I would also love to understand this specific part of technology. What do you mean by AI? And I'm asking this because currently in the world there are so many AI applications which range from a bit smart technology application to LLMs to something which can reason or be very good at a narrow or a specific task, which could be understood as artificial narrow intelligence. So I'm curious, how do you explain artificial intelligence in your work?
Very good question. Coming, I suppose, not being one of the software developers, I probably have a very different understanding. And I suppose to me, picking up on that evolution of technology that I was just referring to, I suppose I see AI as the term that's being used for the technology that we have available right at the moment. If I extend that back in the 1970s, it was a piece of artificial intelligence. I think we've evolved the technology much further, and we can make lot. I think the difference is that we can make decisions and that analysis much quicker, almost instantaneous, which is probably the difference between now and a few years ago. So, extending on that, I'd say that the AI is that we refer to these days is actually the ability to have real-time information and decisions rather than getting the information available within hours or even days using previous technology. We've got it now right at our fingertips, and that actually promotes and encourages us to think about what could we actually do now that we're actually in that scenario. How can we use it? And that's not something that humans have been able to do before.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Mark, about the real-time element AI. And from my perspective, AI it's large language models and machine learning or machine vision. So being able to see what a human sees and to be able to process that is part of AI, and the large language models, which is what ChatGPT and Gemini and all those are based on, which as I describe it, it's all about what is the information that we have to date. So AI provides us with this kind of amazing search engine for what's happened up until this point in time. But then going forward, that's where we can use our creativity and our brains to create something going forward. Because machine vision and AI and LLM is only on what's already been done. So I think that's really important to remind ourselves that it doesn't project into the future. We're the only ones that can do that, but we can use it to do that. And we can pretend it does that, but in reality, it doesn't. Because it comes out of neural networks. Neural networks have been around, which replicate the brain, supposedly. And I don't understand neural networks. When I was doing my master's and my colleague was doing his PhD in neural networks, he tried to describe it to me because we shared an office together. And I was like, oh, yeah, sounds great, but I don't really fully understand it. And here we are 30 years later seeing about how it can be done in a large language model, which is super powerful, I think. So AI does mean a lot of different things, and it's important not to be dazzled by the term AI.
Thank you so much for these examples, because it just shows that there are so many different understandings while the technology is itself evolving. So there are so much more to come, and we haven't even tapped into the real creativity of humans with these machines, which is really interesting. Now, I would like to go back to what Sam talked about with CCTV and creating safer cities with these technologies. That is always a question whether AI, CCTV, vision, machine vision, and this kind of surveillance can help create safer cities, because safety might be enhanced, but privacy might be decreased, or people feel that they might be safer, but they are at the same time surveilled. So I'm curious, how do you create safer cities with these technologies?
I think it is, Fanny. I think the safety comes from a few aspects. One is certainly the ability to respond quickly to events. And that has been a lot of our focus as we've developed our own technology. And what we've noticed is that there's no point really having, from our view, CCTV's immediate incident response that take 6 hours, 3 days to look at. People actually need immediate real-time response so that people can actually call emergency services, can call the security guards. But it's also having a bit of predictive in looking at the overall scenario and situation and see if any event is actually escalating. So a lot of events would typically go through there might be some loitering to start with, then there might be a little bit of a scuffle, then there might be a bit of assault, and then there may be weapons. So identifying each of those threat levels has a different response, but being able to respond quickly and get that information to the right people at the right time is the critical aspect from my perspective to help people feel safe and to actually be safe, and to have people know that technology is also protecting them as well.
It's interesting when we talk about privacy because, on the one hand, everyone wants privacy, of course. Nobody wants to feel like they're being watched. But at the same time, where's the boundary? Instead of flipping from one extreme to the other, where on tech, you know that on your iPhone, if you start talking about something with a friend, suddenly it's going to start throwing up all these ads about this particular. If I start talking about a particular city, suddenly I'll have all of those starting to pop up on my iPhone as ads. And so that feels invasive. And yet we didn't realize we were signing up to that. Whereas from a video analytics perspective, you can anonymize it. And if it's anonymized and it's for the safety of people, it's about making sure, again, we're fighting the good fight, we're using it for good, not evil. And how do you actually make sure that you can get the benefits of it by anonymizing it, for example, without throwing out the baby with the bathwater? And for me, particularly coming from a transport background, so I'm a civil engineer and I have a transport and traffic and infrastructure background, as well as with adjacencies in tech. So incidents and collisions, as when you're caught in traffic, that makes a big difference to your day. Some people can get frustrated and think, oh my goodness, I'm going to miss my flight, I'm going to miss my meeting, I'm late, I don't want to be late. I've got to pick up my children from childcare. So there's so many examples where people don't want to be late. They don't want to be delayed. And yet, so we can, using CCTV, help identify the behaviour and those precursor events that will lead up to a major event that will then cause significant delays. So that's one of the beauties about the CCTV and the AI video analytics, is you can start to identify those events that lead up to a major event. It's a bit too late when the event's happened. For example, if someone's drowning, they are actually drowning, but there's a whole lot of events that lead up to that. And that's where this root cause analysis, plus your existing CCTV sweating the asset, and plus your AI machine learning, vision learning, can then provide this really good confluence and events which make sure that we can look at it properly and use it for good.
I am really glad that you were able to describe that this is for the better, not for the worse. So it's really good thinking that it has so much opportunities, and we will get back to the opportunities. But first, I would love to know, what do you see as the biggest challenges for this kind of approach, technology, smart cities, creating safer cities, and stuff like that?
Fanny, I believe that there's a few challenges. One is I think up until now, there's been a lot of isolated solutions being developed. So scaling them and integrating them, we're now at a point where I believe we need to address that and come up with a way so that we don't have fragmented systems, and we're going to get the best value from them being able to talk together. They may do different things, but being able to combine all that information. There's no point having sensors that do, 3 lots of sensors that do different things if they can't actually talk together, or you can replace them all with one solution. So I think and then managing the data that comes from that and picking up on what Samantha was saying earlier, being able to combine that into, we don't probably need more data, we just need it being more concise, precise, and in a format that we can actually use. And I think also up until now, a lot of technology from my perspective has been dedicated or devoted to a particular department or an industry sector. For instance, finance will have a finance program. HR will have an HR program. The warehousing team will have a warehouse program. And so, person in making the decision has up until now been very much in charge of that department. But I think one of the challenges that I'm certainly seeing from a government perspective, and it also happens within private, large enterprise, is when you've got a platform that can service all of them in some way, who is actually the key decision maker to actually decide? So I think, and it's not, I think that's fairly applicable right across the board as we get more and more, less and less fragmentation of technology, and it can serve everyone. There's a lot of debate that needs to happen and a structure for organisations to pick up on so that they can actually make those decisions in a nimble, quick way rather than going through it may take them a year to work out, to collaborate together and actually decide. So I think there's a challenge there of how do we help smart cities in particular make decisions more quickly, and so that they can actually get the benefit of the technology more quickly.
Yes, the collaboration is a really fundamental part, I think. And having worked in engineering for a long time, sometimes people can be very brilliant in terms of their technical detail, but it's really in the application. And I've seen many really good ideas not get up because people haven't been able to sell it properly to the right people. And so one of the things I get really excited about with Neuweb and CCTV and AI is that it's very powerful because you can actually see what's happening. So you can pull out the metadata, and that's great for your spreadsheets, your JSON file, CSV file, for those on the technical side. But then you can also pull up the video that says, look, this is what happened. And a picture says 1,000 words. When people see it, so that's from decision makers, politicians, the PR department, government relations departments. Oh my goodness, that's exactly what's happening. I can see what's happening. And then you can translate that to a measure. You can timestamp it so you don't have to waste a lot of time looking for that video, or even if you miss it, for example, and that has happened many times. So there's this real power in the CCTV that I think a lot of us have imagined but haven't been able to harness. And here, AI and Neuweb are really focusing on harnessing that and giving the power to then the decision makers who hopefully can make better decisions, more efficient, more effective, and really contribute to a smart city.
I love that although I asked about the challenges, both of you talked about more the opportunity side, which is just reassuring that in the challenges there are these opportunities which we are addressing, which we can work on, which bring us to a better future. So are there other big opportunities you would like to address?
Yeah, other opportunities that we see, Fanni, certainly as we talked before, is using the data in real time. It's across department intelligence and collaboration, and also there's a aspect there of the opportunity is to actually use the assets that are already often in place. It's some of the terminology used recently at the summits has been sweating the assets. How can we actually use what we've already got more effectively? We're certainly seeing that many departments and industry sectors don't want to invest in more hardware they want to get more out of what they've already got. So I think that is the real opportunity, is to use what you've already got and to work with partners that are able to extract the value from those opportunities, and work with them to actually solve the real problems that industry or departments have. So it's actually being able to sit down and work with them to say, okay, an off-the-shelf product isn't going to solve it, but what is the real problem? How can we actually use, in our case, CCTV and video analytics to actually help that? So that's where the opportunity is. It's listening to the end customer and working backwards to deliver a real solution for them.
And I 100% agree. One of the good things about AI coming into popular vernacular and popular language, everyone can talk about AI broadly. I think that also allows a window, because people will say, okay, AI, once they get beyond the fear of it, they understand that there is a lot of potential value in it. So that's good in terms of opening the door to a broader discussion in how it can impact infrastructure in a smart city. So that's great. The other one is that in recent decades, or even the last 15 years, there's been a real focus on getting everyone around the table. Now, that hasn't been able to be pervasive, but it has worked really well for certain events. For example, the Olympic Games. Moving, and I'll use a freight and goods delivery example, delivering in a city where you've got road closures, security is really heightened, and you've got to get linen to hotels, you've got to get food in, and all the things that make it a city run. You've got to get those in, but you've also got to meet the security requirements. And allow pedestrians, because nobody's going to stop walking, so the trucks can all go by, for example. So that out of hours delivery, as they call it. And what happened is they got everyone around the table to discuss. So it was local government, it was the freight operators, it was the receivers, it was the hoteliers, it was the hospitality and cafe owners, it was the security and the athlete representatives. They all came around the table and said, okay, this is what I need, and this is what I need, and this is what I need. And then talking about, I can help you there. Because if we move it to 10 o'clock at night, that's when you've got a window, that's a lull, you've got your night people, you can have the keys, the code, you can actually do it yourself, right? So just that process, which is quite basic, but it's really getting people around the table to actually listen to someone else for a start. Listening skills is a good thing. And then also to try to understand what they can bring to the table as well. And that, while it's basic, just created such a positive environment for the London Olympic Games. It's worked really well in New York at the Commonwealth Games and the Gold Coast. It works really well. So now that's something that they do at all of those events, like the Olympic Games and Commonwealth Games. It's worked really well. And there's no reason why we can't use that same principle in a CCTV space, particularly around CCTV, because so many can potentially get value from it.
And are there any particular projects you would like to highlight as being very proud of and the star of Neuweb?
There's certainly projects and accomplishments that we're very proud of. Fanni, I think as I go through or mention those, I'd just probably like to go back a little bit and talk about the evolution. So what I'm actually really proud of is that we started this whole journey looking at trying to find a solution for drowning detection. And what we quickly realized was there wasn't much value necessarily in, other than from a saving life point of view, looking at the event as it happened. It was actually a series of events that lead up to the drowning. And so I'm really proud that we've been able to take what we learnt through investigating drowning detection and develop a modular platform that can now be used across many sectors, including public safety, smart city, transport, retail, manufacturing, warehousing, events, using that same approach to deliver value and outcomes in a whole lot of different areas. So I think that's certainly one thing that I'm proud of and the team has been able to accomplish. is to translate what started as a simple question, how can we detect drownings better, into a much broader and a platform for applications across the world. From a specific project point of view, I'll probably let Samantha talk about the one in traffic, which is close to her background and in love. But certainly, the one project that's being just completed actually was the first time cameras have been used for parking management. So rather than in-ground sensors and in-ground loops, we've used the CCTVs to monitor the parking management in some council car parks, so thus driving down the cost of those projects quite substantially and being a lot less maintenance in the future. Seeing that live and working really well, we're very proud of that. And Samantha, you can talk about the other project.
So the other one in the traffic space is we've collaborated with a government agency in Australia, one of the states, and worked through how we can help them in a traffic management centre, which controls and operates the entire network, arterial network, on congestion, collisions, incidents, overheight, speed estimations, so speeding, and wrong way driving. So that we've worked together on that one, so collaborated and developed a really software development for them that is potentially a game changer. We think it's a game changer. They think it's a game changer. So that's really exciting and really starting to show the value of what we can do. Again, just bringing up a couple of points Mark made is the nimbleness. One of the things I think is very exciting, I've worked 10 years in state government, is to be able to be nimble, because the big organisations and the big corporations, they really struggle with nimbleness. And there's just layers of people and bureaucracy, and you can understand that. Despite best intentions, we're very nimble, and because we're really focused on CCTV, it's the same principles across. And to see this come to fruition in this relationship with one of the government agencies is just super exciting, and really exciting to see them excited as well. So, yeah, I'm very proud of that.
And Mark, Sam, please keep up this good work, because we do need this kind of nimbleness in governance and big organizations and small organizations. But I also want to be respectful. Of your time for today. So, do you have any closing comments or requests for the audience?
Thank you very much for your time and coordinating this podcast. Really enjoyed it. As a closing comment, I think we're at a point in, I almost say, human history, where we've got a whole lot of things coming together. We've got the new analytics from AI and the ability to respond in real time. We've got who've put in a lot of hardware and a lot of assets, and now they just want to get more out of it. Costs are an issue, so we've got to drive down costs. And then on the flip side, the public is wanting more and more safety, which is, so we've just got to work out a practical solution to bringing those together. And that's, I think, where Neuweb fits in. And from thoughts for those listeners to the podcast, I think I'd say to them, we're now at a time where we're ready as a society to open our minds as to what might be possible. We've got some new technology here that we haven't had before. What can you do with it? If you've got no barriers, and what would you like to get out of your CCTV system? I'd take the approach of, if a human was sitting where that camera was, what would they see? What would they conclude? And what would they want to see? It's reflecting on where we are and now with new opportunities, and just opening the mind as to, with no barriers, what's possible. Ideas are where everything comes from. Open your mind and let's see what we can deploy and grow from what we've already got in place to meet all those challenges that society is now wanting. So thank you for hosting today. So it's been great.
Yeah, thanks, Fanni. And I just wanted to add to that is just reach out to us, reach out for a conversation. We'd love to talk to you about what you are dreaming about in terms of CCTV and would love to have. And we had a conversation just yesterday, which was really exciting. And he was saying to us, I've been hoping and dreaming about this, imagining it, but is it possible? And we're saying, yes, it's now possible. He's, oh, this is fantastic. So to have that exploratory part of what we can potentially do as well. So please don't hesitate, any of your listeners, to reach out to us and let's start seeing what we can achieve together.
Thank you so much. If you want to learn more about Mark and Samantha, links will be provided in the show notes, and the Smart Cities Council website can inform you even more. What have you learned from this interview? What questions do you have after listening to Mark and Samantha? What would you like to know more about? Let us know on the Smart Cities Council website or on LinkedIn. Look out for other episodes and topical discussions. Thanks for tuning in.